really like that a lot. So Tamara,
It's funny, we were talking about it because Carrie likes super bright natural light and I like darker. And I'm like, this is why everything's in dark mode. And I'm like, and I have the dark background and
Yeah.
she has the light
And I have the
background.
light background.
That's wonderful. So there, I don't know if you've seen, well, you can't see my pen, but my background, there's two versions of it. There's the all black with the white X and the white background with the black X. And so I also was like, what am I feeling today? And it's definitely a white day, I think was what I ended up on. So, but I like both options. But I really like your guys' background. They're super cute. They did a good job. So Tamara, how many times have you presented?
This is my 4th year.
Okay, wow, nice. Well, we are so happy to have you. And Carrie, we're so excited to have this be your first experience as a presenter. Hopefully it's good for you and everything will be great. And like I said, if anything comes up, I will just preface it. I'm not a super technical CT user. I'm in marketing. So I will try to answer as many questions as I can if you do not know them. But if not, we'll collect them and we'll find a way to get those answers back to them as well.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think we have anything like too terribly technical.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So where are you guys calling in from?
I am just north of Houston.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm in Central Arkansas.
Oh, nice. Very nice. I was just talking to my husband. We were talking about trying to take a trip and Houston was on our list.
Hey, we'd love to have
Yes.
you. It's
Yeah.
cold here today, though. It's
Oh,
like only 70.
okay. Maybe we don't. Well, actually, that's warmer than it is here in Grand
Oh, I
Rapids.
know. Yeah, in
Yeah.
Michigan.
So
Yeah,
that's like shorts weather for us.
right. I know. Yeah,
Yeah, I've never been to Houston before, but I've heard good things about it.
It is, fun fact, it is the most culturally diverse city in the United States.
I've heard, or at least I watch a lot of Anthony Bourdain,
yeah.
and one of them, I think there is one on Houston. I'm almost positive there
Yes,
is one
yeah.
on Houston, and I think it was a lot about the Asia Pacific
Yes.
cultural diversity there because of the water, which
Yeah.
I would have never known.
Yeah, there's a lot of Eastern Asians that are like fishermen,
Yeah.
fisher people. Yep.
And that's why I want to go there, is because I love that type of food. I just anything that's similar to that is like right up my alley.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it is on our list. Not this time around. We took the easy route. My parents have a house in Florida and they're going on vacation. So we are
Oh, there
going
you go.
to stay in their house while they are on vacation.
Doesn't get better than that.
Nope. Free place to stay. And it was a little bit last minute. We booked it like 2 days ago and we leave tomorrow. So we waited too long. We're not planners, as you can tell.
Yeah, I also have a vacation coming up. I was like, yep, I'm going to schedule this for right after the CET conference.
Yeah. Where are you headed?
So we're heading to Sedona on Saturday.
Nice.
Flying to Phoenix, getting a car, going to go to Sedona for a couple days, Grand Canyon, Antelope Canyon.
Oh, wonderful.
A couple of days in the desert.
Yeah, disconnect.
Yep.
Love it. Love it. Love it. We also looked at Arizona, Utah.
Yes.
Idaho. Yeah, but like I said, we should have planned better because your trip sounds a lot more fun.
I found tickets for $88.
Oh, that's a steal.
I was like, hey, guess what? We're going.
Yeah. Now I don't like it freaks. Okay, I'm not even gonna bring it up. Actually, I've listened to too many like murder podcasts and one of them I remember that was just like it was about the desert, but it ended up being like a guy got tried and they thought he murdered his like hiking partner, but it ended up not. He died because they were heat exhaustion and like it'd been almost a week in the desert or maybe 10 days, like something crazy. And they both were not in their right minds. And he ended up like the guy died. And so the guy was being tried for it. It was super interesting podcast, but that freaked me out afterwards. I was like, I don't know, like, what if we get lost in the desert?
Yeah. Yeah. There's, in West Texas, there's signs that say like next service station, 88 miles, like make sure you have gas.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like no services for the next 100 miles.
That's crazy.
be warned.
Yeah, I mean, but that's good that they have those because they've obviously put those up by learning the
Yeah.
hard way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, lordy, lordy. We should be having people potentially joining in the next minute here, just as an FYI. I know yesterday we had some people join early, which I wasn't sure how, but I don't see anybody in there yet. Let's see here. So did you guys get to enjoy some of the conference so far?
Yes. Yeah.
What was your favorite intro video or closing video so far?
Oh my God. I liked the office one with you,
Yeah.
of course. Hilarious. I laughed so hard. Well, no, yeah, I really like that one.
I like the candy one because that's
Oh,
always
yeah.
funny to me. I grew up with a British stepdad, and so when like we went over there to England once, and so like getting to like try their candy, I'm like, it's chocolate. It's not that much different. And then like just they're huge on like gummy bears and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And it's just like the chocolate does taste different. And so like it's really funny to me to like see and like all the different candies. So that was fun.
Oh, I missed that one.
They're all pre-recorded and they will be made available so you can check it out. That I really, the candy one's always a good one. I know we did Speaking Swedish last year. The videos that
Mm-hmm.
come out of this I think are always just so fun and hilarious. I really enjoyed the office one. Was a lot of fun. One of my colleagues scripted the whole thing, which was, just it's fun to see people's creative sides coming out
Yeah.
and also the goofy side of having to play these different roles and who's willing to do that. Yeah.
I was
But the
so
candy.
impressed. I was so impressed with the camera work and
Oh, yeah.
how like they really made it look like the show. So
Yeah,
good.
so my in-law or my sister-in-law works here. She's the graphic designer, and so she's the one that filmed. And so she went to school for videography, and she's
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really into The Office. And when she
Nice.
gets into something, it is like she gets it all in. It's like I will mimic this to the full potential. So
Nice. Always good to
yeah.
have an expert.
Oh yeah.
There's
Oh yeah.
there's a really interesting documentary that they did like a behind the scenes thing on WandaVision about how they had like each decade had like that look to it and how they got that look and how they like how you could tell immediately as like as soon as it opened from the way that the camera looked, the backgrounds, the lighting, and I'm just like, this is fascinating to me that
Yes.
like you could tell like what decade it was just from the way it was filmed.
Yeah, but it is so interesting. And even just like the little nuances of like, you have either a tripod or it's handheld, you know what I mean? Of how it picks up and just little things that I love paying attention to that kind of stuff too. It's super interesting to me. Um, and how it can, I mean, even just like with The Office, just by shooting it that way, it's like the style of The Office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, it's 101. Don't have anybody in here yet.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Maybe this won't be as high pressure as I
Yeah.
thought.
Let me send a chat to see if anybody else is making sure.
Did it? Did the link go live?
Yeah, I'm just checking that out right now. Yeah, I think, yep, it's like, oh, Samantha has joined. Oh, we got Amy's joining. Welcome, you two. All right, we're going to give just maybe 1 or 2 more minutes for people to join in. I know that link going live is, it's a short, small window before it starts. So we'll just give a few more minutes to see if we can get some more joiners in here. And I know too, sometimes those longer breaks, people kind of lose track of time. So hopefully people will be like, oh, it started. All right. Hello, Kelsey. We're just going to give about one more minute until we'll get started here, just to give a little extra time for those who haven't joined yet. Start at 1:03. All right, let's get started promptly at 1:03 because we know you guys have timed this and you're at 40, was it 41 or 42 minutes?
Yep.
Yep. All right. Well, welcome, Amy and Samantha. Hopefully, we'll get a few more joiners here in the next couple of minutes as well. My name is Kelsey Coates. I am on Configura's marketing team, and I am joined here by the lovely Tamara and Carrie, who are going to be giving a breakout session on loss in translation. A few housekeeping. Just to let you guys know how we want to handle questions. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see that we are in a kind of a webinar mode. That means that all of our attendees are muted to avoid any extra noise. But that being said, we are open to questions. So Tamara and Carrie have asked that we hold questions until the very end, but just so you guys don't lose any of your questions, please use the Q&A button at the very bottom of your screen. There you can go ahead and you can put in any question you want that we will save till the very end. Of course, if we need any clarification, we can go ahead and unmute you to make it easier to just have a back and forth if that's what we need to do. Additionally, you'll find the chat button. So feel free to drop any comments, questions, or whatever else you want to put in there as well, just to keep conversation going. Otherwise, I think that is all I have. So I will turn it over to Tamara and Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Tamara, and we are furniture gurus from Kimiko Designs. That's even on our business cards and everything.
A little housekeeping. We will take questions at the end. We're being recorded, and be sure and keep the Zoom chat box open. And we have interactive polls throughout. So pull up the poll at pollev.com/Kimiko, Kimiko.
And today we're going to be sharing with you some of our best practices for translating design intent into coherent results.
Our Dynamite team is recognized in the furniture industry as knowledgeable experts. We have worked on projects from all across the world. Our team is spread all over the United States. We have a diverse range of experience working with dealers, A&D firms, and customers of all sizes and specialties.
And that means we're chameleons and we have to adapt for every dealer we work with. So that's countless different designers, design managers, and salespeople. We have years of experience honing our communication skills as a remote team. We've been an entirely remote team since inception 22 years ago. That's 1999. So think of how much has changed about collaborative work since then.
Ever feel like you need an interpreter in a meeting? Are we even speaking the same language? We are sharing our best practices for translating sales and customer speak into actual design intent. We're going to minimize confusion and revisions with clear, concise, consistent communication for a virtual world. So let us help you communicate better with your customers and your coworkers.
So what we're covering today, how we communicate differently from our coworkers and our customers, how we can overcome challenges we face when communicating, and how we can leverage CET to our advantage when communicating.
Have you ever come out of a meeting feeling more confused than when you went in? Have you thought you had clear direction, created a badass project, and then it wasn't at all what the customer was thinking? Have you ever thought there were 5 of us in that meeting and 5 different ideas of what was needed? Things can blow up quickly. Avoid these situations. Stop wasting your precious time. How do we do that?
Don't let your project explode into chaos. Remember the 4 C's when working with sales and clients: clear, concise, consistent communication. And get your phone or browser ready because we have our first poll. What is some of your biggest communication challenges you faced when working remotely? Some special communication challenges have arisen since the start of the pandemic. Everyone has had to adapt to this new way of working, and maybe your company is still sorting through it. Here are some of the common frustrations remote workers face, especially in such a collaborative field like ours. You might continue to be a remote worker, or at least part of the time. And if you're feeling that Zoom fatigue, we are going to address some good tips on how to get around that.
Start incorporating the 4 C's with clear, concise, consistent communication.
Establish some communication guidelines about when you prefer to be contacted. This might vary from person to person or department to department. Most salespeople are used to being reached whenever, wherever, but don't just assume that. And not all designers have work email on their phone. Set up boundaries regarding after hours and weekends. If you send an email or a text over the weekend, please preface it with, "This can wait till Monday," or "super urgent, please read now, something is quite literally on fire."
That's literally happened. Establish communication guidelines about how you prefer to be contacted as well. Put it in your email signature along with your working hours so that it's clear when people can expect a response from you. You want to avoid the back and forth of short emails, which keeps your inbox clean. Email is not instant messenger. Say it with me. We'll talk about some other ways to keep in touch with your team in the next few slides. And we do have another poll coming up. So get ready. What is your preferred method of being contacted? And this can vary by generation. Some examples: boomers may walk over and talk to you face to face. Gen Xers might pick up the phone and call you. Millennials tend to prefer to send an email, even a geriatric millennial like I am. Don't leave me a voicemail because it might take me like 3 days to listen to it and get back to you. Gen Zers might send a text or an instant message, maybe not so much with the emails. And some Gen Zers may not know that their phone actually makes calls. This might be a good exercise to do with your own department too. Knowing how your coworkers and clients prefer to be contacted will ensure you get a timely response when you need answers.
And how can you get some people on board with using some of those messenger apps and even new technology like the cloud servers and shared live documents? You have to implement process and procedures over a couple of months so that you're not jumping into the deep end right away. It takes time to build new habits. Be transparent company wide about new policies being implemented and include a timeline with mile markers along the way. And make sure your desktop and mobile apps are synced so you're always up to date and can respond via the same channel, even if you're away from your desk. And you can enable notifications so you know when someone is trying to reach you. These notifications can also be set up to only go off when within the availability boundaries you set. That's a lot of vowels in that word.
So the best way to get a hold of you might vary from day to day. Let it be known. If someone isn't in the office with you, it can be really hard to know the different schedules going on. Take a sec to check someone's availability before you just pick up the phone and call them and expect an answer. In the example here, you can see that I am presenting, so not a great time to get a hold of me. Kelly and Lisa are offline. Marissa and Matthew are both at a meeting. and Melissa has her out of office turned on. Have a shared calendar for your whole team, so team members can add in vacation time, personal appointments, yoga classes like me. We do this in Outlook at Kimiko. And you can also use your out of office responder to say things like, hey, I'm heads down today, or I'm at a job site, I'm away from my desk, it might be delayed. All this week, mine has said I'm attending the CET conference, Tuesday through Thursday, so response times might be longer than normal. You can use apps like Calendly to share your availability and schedule meetings with people outside of your company too.
And when we're talking about teamwork and collaboration, it's important to acknowledge the advances in understanding neurodiversity. Psychology Today says that neurological differences amongst people are normal, and this is nothing new. So they should be respected, understood, and supported rather than viewed as abnormal. Neurodiversity can include autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and even anxiety. So, what exactly does this have to do with communication? Modifying the environment, including having special guidelines for communication of a neurodiverse individual, can help that person discover and use their innate talents and thrive within society and the workplace. This could look like instructions in writing, giving specific deadlines, or letting someone keep their camera off during a meeting.
The DISC profile is a personal assessment tool that helps improve teamwork and productivity in the workplace. It describes human behavior in various situations, how you respond to challenges, how you influence others, and how you respond to rules and regulations. And most importantly for us, it talks about how you naturally communicate and receive information. You might be able to identify yourself, or even your boss, from the descriptions here. We use the DISC profile with all the members of our team, and we talked about this last year, if you heard that. We use this to figure out who fits where, and it's important to remember that not everyone communicates the same way. You might have noticed this when communicating with your coworkers. They might say one thing, you hear another. Designers tend to be critical thinkers or high Cs. Salespeople could be a D or an I.
Here are some consolidated examples of each of the four styles and how you actually might be able to identify them from an email. Our own styles reflect in this. I am a high D. Carrie is a high C. We noticed in putting this presentation together, Carrie was focused on all the details of the content while I was instrumental in the big ideas and ways to drive the point across. This balanced in helping us work together. Anyone who has seen an email from me definitely knows I like bullet points and lists. This is just the personality profile that we at Kimiko use, but there are a plethora of others out there. And it's more about evaluating your style and learning the style of others. If you want to use the DISC profile, you can go to discprofile.com. Super easy to remember. It's all about clear, concise, consistent communication. We are going to make that our new mantra today.
Amen. Coming up next, we have a few pointers for meeting with your team.
When you have a stand-up meeting, the purpose is to discuss quickly what you need help with, what you're currently working on, or when you'll be open. Hence the name stand-up, like you're standing around at the office, not getting too comfy. Remember that these should be highlights only and should last 15 minutes max so that you can get back to doing your actual job. Leave the details for the individual meetings.
I know we've all sat through meetings and then thought, dude, that totally could have been an email. Not everything needs to be a Zoom, Teams, Skype call. To avoid Zoom fatigue, don't just blindly accept a meeting invite before you know what's going to be discussed. Because as designers, we always want to be prepared. If you're a high C on the DISC profile, like I am, you might get anxiety and think, oh God, I wonder what this could be about. Why do they need me for a whole hour? Or, uh-oh, did I have a huge design error? What's going on? Once you've established the parameters, set a time limit on the meeting because, once again, your time is valuable.
We have some tricks for overcoming communication barriers that happen as soon as a project starts. But first, we have a poll so that you guys could tell us what are the biggest communication hurdles with new projects that you guys experience. And that link is at the top if anybody coming in late needs to see that. A lot of times it's unknown budgets, unknown expectations. You don't actually know what the deliverables exactly are, or maybe it's unclear parameters, client responsiveness or lack thereof. Yes, who owns it? That's a good one. Reuse of existing product is not always clear. Getting some vendor quotes sometimes can be a hurdle with meeting your expected deadline.
Handwritten notes that look like they're in another language. When you get started, review the request and identify any details that need to be determined. Figure out what information is missing early on, and that will save you from having to ask those questions when you're actually ready to dive in and start designing. They'll save you from waiting days or hours for an answer. Don't stall yourself out before you even get a chance to start. Do you have a new project checklist or form at your dealership? I know some people have these, and if you don't have one, and this continues to be a communication hurdle for you, maybe it's a good time to start. It is helpful for getting an idea of the scope so that you can estimate design hours and decide who the project is going to. It's also really helpful for getting install quotes. Make sure you understand the function for each space and if you're following the block plan in the AutoCAD file or not. Sometimes those are just generic placeholder items. Is the timeline feasible? If something comes up and the timeline is no longer doable, let your team know at the first available opportunity. Again, communicate.
And establishing expectations with the client makes them feel valued. So letting them know that we have high standards and our turnaround time reflects that can also establish value in those design time charges. Don't have time, then maybe you could do line drawings or budget specs or thought starters for your first draft. Asking these questions up front can keep you from doing a lot of extra work that might not quite be needed yet. We've all experienced having turnaround times promised on our behalf and the tornado that happens to try and meet that deadline. Burning the midnight oil isn't sustainable.
Establishing client expectations should also define the role of the salesperson and the designer during the process. Having clearly defined roles keeps the customer from feeling like the salesperson checked out, and it avoids miscommunication on where in the process the designer takes over. This can be flexible, but you still need some baseline. So establish things like, are you having direct communication with the client versus always asking questions through the salesperson? Do they really want to be copied on every email? When does the designer have autonomy to make their own decisions and use their best judgment versus what needs to be confirmed with sales?
And as contract designers, we have to get good information from the dealer. The customer, client, salesperson may not have thought about all the details. That's what we're here for. So, what could be obvious to you could not have even occurred to the customer or even the salesperson. Remember the disc profiles? If you must make assumptions to get the ball rolling on a project, then you need to identify the items you made assumptions on. For example, a caster versus glide type, or single versus multiple textiles, maybe the chair arm style. And sometimes sales can also be a little focused on a specific product instead of asking more programming style questions to understand the purpose So then you can actually come back with proper solutions. So engage in some better discussions up front to dig into the details of the client's needs before providing 5 different task share options. The salesperson might not have thought they provided detailed information, but there might be a lot of holes once you start specifying. And you can use CET to help with this. You can use the expand options function in your calculation view to help fill in the gaps for where you need finishes left or options that aren't fully specified.
Lack of information can extend to the building as well. If you don't have a CAD file, let the customer know that field dimensions will take additional time, i.e. money, if one isn't provided. This additional cost might make them work a little bit harder to track down a CAD file. I know I've had several projects that I've gotten all the way to the end, and then the customer remembers that, oh yeah, Bob and Debbie, they wanted to keep their task shares. Sorry, we forgot to mention that. Sales should attach previous order confirmations with the new request so that the designer can verify and match any existing product. Using an old spec file is a recipe for disaster. Talk about blowing up.
And sometimes it's about your timeline. And quick ship products can be entire separate catalogs or an entirely different extension and require drawing and specifying differently. Products, options, finishes are limited based on lead time. And using a non quick ship catalog and then later finding out they have a tight timeline will cause you have to go back and redraw and respecify everything. That's double the work. Or you end up showing them products that have no chance of ever arriving on time or this year, or at this point, maybe next year.
Let's talk about practices for overcoming barriers. Step 1, start by actually having standards. Good place to start. We all know the scenario. You win the lottery. And how does somebody take over easily? Where did you leave off? How does your coworker come in? This has literally happened with somebody we work with. So, for example, rather than calling customer service and waiting on hold forever and not actually getting anything documented, send an email so that you can get all the information. Save that email in a designated folder so that somebody else knows where to find it. And we all know that person who loves to save files on their desktop. I'm not going to name any names here. If you need it to be readily accessible, create a desktop shortcut instead.
And creating an empty file folder structure that can be saved and copied for each project. So everyone knows what should be located where. This is such a simple thing, but this practice isn't implemented everywhere. So you might have 8 designers and 8 different ways of organizing a job folder, which makes it really difficult and time consuming for someone to find what they need. How many hours of your life have you wasted trying to find the dang file you need? It actually saves a ton of time from creating the folders with each new job.
Organize your files in a top-down fashion. So customer, location, building, floor, then project number. We've all said, which one's the current CET file? Leave the customer master CET file outside of individual project folders so that no one has to go hunting for which is the current file.
We can start talking about reviewing these projects with clients. We have an example here of a floor plan with clearly labeled and called out area names so everyone knows exactly what we're talking about during meetings. Nothing quite like, can we take a look at Debbie's office during a meeting, only to be like, who is Debbie?
Oh, wait, Debbie? You want to make the best use of the time you have when reviewing with your customers. Request a marked up PDF plan with red lines, but then also schedule a Zoom or Teams meeting to review together. Make notes on anything that isn't clear and create an agenda that is sent out to all attendees beforehand so that everybody knows what will be covered and can be prepared. Use numbers versus bullet points when itemizing changes in written communication. That way somebody can say, in regards to item 3, I think we should, yada, yada, yada. The example shown here is an agenda with action items, noting who is doing what so that everybody knows what is expected of them. The items get highlighted once they've been completed.
And if you are going to be in a meeting, always use screen sharing versus just a conference call. But make sure everyone knows ahead of time to log into their computer versus calling in so they can actually see your screen. I don't know how many times I've joined a Teams meeting ready to share a floor plan and somebody has joined on their cell phone. And this also helps you type notes and edits onto that shared screen so that the client can clearly see and clarify requested changes as they happen. This literally just happened to me. I was going over field verified dimensions and misheard, but because I was doing live edits on a shared screen, the customer saw it and it was easily fixed.
No problemo.
Our tips for screen sharing revisions during a meeting also apply to live design. So when a client wants to walk through some options before making some final decisions, you definitely want to get on early so that you have everything set up and ready to go. For us designers, we need to be prepared with CET drawing open because we know how long sometimes that can take to load. And we have and always have a designated note taker because it should not be the same person as whoever is driving the CET drawing and doing the changes. It is way too hard to do both. And then when you're done, be sure to send a recap email highlighting the changes when you send updated plans.
And if you're in a meeting with a lot of information, don't be afraid to hit record. Just make it known that you'll be recording and ask for permission. And Zoom automatically does this. It will notify participants that the meeting is being recorded. You can also turn off your cameras after the initial greeting. This avoids distractions from the shared screen. It helps with internet connection speeds, and it also helps the presenter not feel so self-conscious, so they can focus on the presentation and clear communication. Just make sure you turn your camera back on once you're done presenting so that you can reconnect with everybody you're meeting with.
And have a debrief with your internal team immediately after a big meeting with a lot of changes. We all know how it goes sometimes. 5 people go into a meeting, 5 different ideas come out. So review the information you received, what the deliverables are, and the timeline for the turnaround. You can add calendar entries for your project deadlines. Like here, you can see there are 2 deadlines on this day, so they come up as alerts. All right, we have another poll coming up, so get ready. How organized do you feel your project notes are? You buy that Powerball ticket and the numbers drop on Friday. How confident are you that someone could come and take over if you call in rich?
Woohoo! I won! I'm not coming back to work today or ever. Best of luck with my projects. Ooh, nice. Okay, everybody feels fairly good. Hopefully you don't feel like everything in your brain or your life is a jumbled mess.
Sorry, there it goes. See, PowerPoint didn't like me today.
Dive into how CET can help us feel more organized with our work life. Sorry, CET can't help you with your personal life yet. I love that you
So
laugh at my jokes.
I'm feeling good this afternoon. You can don't reinvent the wheel here when it comes to CET. Put some workstation or private office typicals in a CET file database, meaning a single CET file with example typicals and options that can be opened and quickly shared. This lets you visually find something to use rather than guessing what something is just by a file name. Dropping it in your drawing, realizing it's not what you need, and then you're not also recreating from scratch every single time. It's also way easier than asking your coworker, hey, what was that project with that really cute benching station you did? It was about 2 years ago. And this also helps customers see different options visually, which makes much more sense to them instead of, hey, do you want tall panels or short panels? Because remember, they don't speak our language.
And they definitely don't know what a flipper door unit is. It is not just about workstations and private office typicals either. You can do this with favorites and accessories. So you can have a favorites folder that looks something like this, and it is anxiety inducing. It's just everything dumped in together and only a file name to figure out what's what. Because who the heck knows what the difference is between Tilted Pillow and Tilted Pillow 2? Any guesses? No? Because I created them and I don't even remember. So on the next slide, we will show you a better way.
So again, moving these generic filler favorites into a single CET file. This example is from a dealer client we work with. They have this on their shared drive, so all designers can add to it and pull from it whenever they need to. Thanks for letting us showcase your great idea. You can easily see what's what when you open the file. And using accessories helps customers visualize their space the way it will actually be used. Just make sure to add in accessories towards the end so you're not wasting time adjusting them when products might still be changing.
And they always change. While you're still in the early stages of design, you can use contour images to highlight the product and function. And you ensure that you've translated your customer's request correctly. So for example here, I've added leader lines with product callouts in simple, easy to understand language. So the focus is on clearly communicating what the customer is getting.
And once you get past the initial contour line phase, utilize some generic schemes until finishes are known for real. Create a pre-selected palette so that all finishes look harmonious together, and you don't have to reselect every time. For example, dark scheme, light scheme, maybe a natural walnut scheme, or it can even be done by grade, like grade 1, or maybe something in the middle about a grade 4. But just remember that if you've applied a scheme, you won't have any of those to be determined options come up in your calc view.
So we forget that our customers are bankers, teachers, surgeons. They are not designers, and they don't think like we do. Remember that disk profile? Maybe you're already doing sign-off sheets. Good for you. And if you're not, here's why they're important. You notate finishes, quantities, options, casters, etc., so that there are no miscommunications about exactly what is being ordered. CYA, we all know what that means. And if you don't, Google says it is posterior protection. Sign-off sheets are great for installers and for use as a future reference on future projects.
And if you're doing your sign-off sheets in PowerPoint, please use the export to PowerPoint function in your CET paper space. This will save you so much time on doing screen caps and pasting.
But you can leverage CET to your advantage when generating those sign-off sheets. You can create reusable papers for repeat customers. This is an example of a customer I have, and it just requires tweaking the floor plan layout each time, maybe changing quantities, but everything else is ready to go. Having these pages already set up saves me about 30 minutes for each one, and I do a lot of these projects. This is my absolute favorite tip of the whole presentation.
And did you know that you can tag a single item with multiple tagging categories, including custom ones?
Ooh,
Be,
smart.
be sure you work with your order entry department to set up tagging standards so that you can export your specs. Tags will show up correctly on proposals and shipping labels, depending on the manufacturer. And you can tag like items together and it will save you from having a bajillion lines in your spec, which means less to check and less confusion for your customer. For example, having one line that says guest chairs rather than having guest chairs assigned for each private office, because that opens up the window for mistakes. You can also use the tag legend tool in pay-per-view to create an automatic legend for the tags you've used. And you can add revisions in those redline markups from your meetings that we talked about before right into your CET file. This can serve as a record of revisions from the customer, easy to see if anyone else opens the drawing, and you're not opening two different files at the same time if you have to get back into it. And then you can also do this with site visit photos for easy reference if you're trying to build something in CET. So let's use CET to communicate with your coworkers. Separate large projects onto individual drawings for each floor. This will keep your file size smaller and allows more than one designer to work on a project at the same time if needed. Note that the window for alternatives doesn't always come up when you open a drawing, so someone else may not know that there are multiple alternatives. Simply adding a text box in the plan saying, hey, there are alternatives, and this is the name for this version, and this is some of the other alternatives, and it will help eliminate confusion. And be detailed with your descriptions. Calling something option 1 and option 2 tells us nothing.
Hopefully everybody had a chance to attend Stacy's session on creating seed files. I was there and it was great. So we're just touching on the main points of seed files here. One thing you definitely want to include is a drawing file path and include it in teeny tiny print because file paths are really long. But it's important to have because your coworkers need to know where that file lives.
In this example of a seed file title block that we borrowed from one of our dealer clients with permission utilizes data fields. I've seen some title blocks where all the information is just put in as text boxes. Let the data fields auto-populate this information for you.
Oh, good. And this example is from Julia at WRG, and hopefully you are able to attend her session, CET for the Busy Designer. Her dealership has a stellar seed file with tons of important information already set up on the correct category and visibility settings. So if you're not able to go, make sure you listen to the recording. You can also save all of these items as favorites to drop into your old drawings. And if you're using placeholder items, make sure you remove the pricing from those graphics. You don't want those items to show up in Calc View. And this also eliminates confusion for somebody else that opens the drawing. Because I know I've opened a drawing and said, wait, is this for real? Or are we just using this?
And you can use the revision extension, which is a free item from the CET Marketplace that can create a table that you can easily add to and can also be used in model space and paper space, meaning even in your title block to auto-generate across multiple pages the revision history.
So you can also utilize gray space in paper views for notes for designer to designer. This is another good way to communicate with your fellow designers. And one other way to do that is hide in print and make notes right in the drawing. And hide in print might have been hiding from you all along. You right-click on a text box or a shape and go down to Show or Hide in Print. If you have a large corporate client with lots of different job numbers in a single master file, this is a lifesaver, and I love this tip. It's a clear visual when someone else opens the master drawing file. These colored rectangles will only be visible in the drawing view, and they won't show up on any printouts. So they can be on the same category as other things that you do want to show up in your paper view. Make hide in print notes a different font or a different color, or better yet, its own text style. so that your coworkers know that it's text that won't be visible when printing. You can also use this for revision notes that you want your fellow designer, or maybe your future self, to see, but that you don't need to incorporate in your printouts.
And in your paper view, please go in and name your papers in Paper Manager to make it faster to navigate through those sheets at the bottom of your view. It makes it so much easier to know which pages need to be printed too when you go to print reports. You can name areas by clusters, so no one has to guess what page is for what area. And paper titles are now a data field, so you can use it as your page title on your title block. Again, let it auto-populate.
And if everybody could do me a favor and submit a feature request to make those sheet views larger, that'd be awesome because they're itty bitty.
All right, so what are some key takeaways that I hope you guys got from this one? Is managing expectations with clear communication regarding turnaround times, deliverables, and your availability. Speaking of availability, establish and follow boundaries regarding how you correspond with your coworkers and clients and how they communicate with you. Keep detailed records and save everything in clearly identified folders so that your fellow designers or your future self can easily reference them later. Your time is your most valuable asset. Clear, concise, consistent communication will save you time by eliminating confusion and frustrations.
Remember the 4 C's so your next project doesn't blow up.
All right, so we are now going to open it up for questions. Here is how you can follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram. We have a YouTube channel with some videos. You can subscribe to our newsletter, and this is your IDCEC QR code.
And I will just say, just make sure you have the IDCEC app open when you scan that. Just by scanning this, you will not get credit. So you have to have the app open. We had a few people just trying to use the camera. So just as an FYI. And can I say, I loved this presentation. You guys knocked it out of the park. Such great content, great gifts. I mean, the graphics, everything. It's wonderful. I love everything about it.
Yay, thanks.
And as we're waiting for questions to roll in too, I can go ahead and just do a little housekeeping. So just as a reminder, if you have any questions, please drop them in the QA section using the button below. Of course, you can also raise your hand and we can unmute you if you feel like you want to just open up and talk as well. But in the meantime, this session at 2 o'clock will technically end, and you will have a break from 2 to 2:10 where Curtis is also doing tips and tricks. So if you head back to the CT Experience website, you can join there. Otherwise, you can just take a break until 2:10 for that part. And then the next session doesn't start until 2:10. So once again, you'll head back to the CET Experience website, find the session you're looking for and join there. The link will go live 2 minutes prior, just as a reminder for that. You guys are getting some great comments. Fernanda, amazing presentation. Thank you. And I love the avatars too. Super cute touch, just so fun. I took a few notes even during this of I'm not a designer, I'm in marketing. So it's like just little things that you can take if you're running any type of project, I think, regardless
Absolutely.
of position. Yeah, so good. So I have to ask, I have done the disc.
Ooh, okay.
Tamara, Carrie, what is your disc profile?
I
I'm a
am a
high
very
s-
high.
Oh, go ahead.
Now I'm a very high D and a
Okay.
moderately high I.
Okay.
I am like 100% C.
Okay. Yeah.
I often find myself getting very wordy in emails and like going back and proofreading and changing things, eliminating words. Because yeah, I get very into the details.
I love uh, just profiles like that. I think anything to learn about yourself and others of how you can communicate, I think is such an interesting topic. And I think it can be overlooked. And, especially when you're putting teams together of just trying to understand how to work best together. I myself am an IS, so very intuition friendly.
Why you're in
Overly
marketing,
yes, exactly. Exactly.
which is why I work alone behind my computer all day. I'm a C.
There you go. Have you guys ever heard of the Clifton Strengths before?
We do that at Kimiko as well.
Wonderful. Okay, so now I have to ask, give me your top two at least.
Oh shoot, I literally just did this. It's written down
Learner.
in
I
my
know
Clifton
learner is
Strengths
one
book.
of mine. I don't remember what the others are. It's been 2 years since I
My
thought about that one.
my number one is strategic, and my number two is achiever.
Okay, yeah.
No pressure, right?
Yeah, no. That to me, that one is probably the most. I've taken a lot of these tests, and that one to me, at least personally, I felt like really explained myself quite a bit. And my husband is very analytical, and very science based. And this is the first one he has taken that he says he feels actually is true to who he is as well. Um,
Nice.
but like I said, it's just so interesting to hear how other people learn, communicate, think. And I think it changes who you involve, how you talk to them, how you give out tasks or how you present things. And it's just such an interesting concept.
Absolutely.
I didn't actually take the disc profile until I had started with Kimiko. And as soon as I took it and I was like looking at things, and then our boss Ginger was also going over like some other people's profiles, and like I learned more about it. I'm like, this explains so much about some of like my previous coworkers and previous bosses I had all the way back in college and things like that. And it was really eye-opening to be like, okay, that's okay. That makes so
Totally
much more
explains
sense.
it. Totally explains it.
Have you done it too, where you get the whole disc and you see where everyone's plotted out for your entire team? Have you seen that?
We have a
Yeah.
chart at Kimiko. Yes, we have a chart with everybody and their disc profiles and their Clifton strengths.
Oh, how fun. I love, yeah, like I said, I could geek out over this stuff all day because I really love this kind of stuff. It's just so fascinating to me. And that's probably why individualization is one of my Clifton strengths. I love that. I think everyone has their own unique assets, attributes, characteristics, and values that they bring to the table. And it's just so intriguing to me. I love everything about that kind of stuff. And if anybody out there hasn't done any of those, I definitely recommend it. I think Clifton Strength is only like $60 to do it on your own personal time. The whole idea of it is just really about living in your strengths rather than trying to build your weaknesses up. And not to say that
Mhm.
your weaknesses aren't important and they should be very aware of them, but it's about finding situations where you thrive. Um, and yeah,
But the
Super
keynote from
helpful
this,
for
from
managers.
yeah.
yes, and the keynote from CET 2 years ago, he has a book, and his presentation was really good. And his was all about like playing to your strengths.
Hmm.
Yes,
It's a
yeah.
really good
I remember
presentation.
him.
Yeah, and I can't think of that book. I have it. He was
Olymp
the Olympic
He was
runner,
the
the
runner.
speed skater.
speed skater. That's what it was. Yes. Yeah, that is a very good book, and he talks exactly about that as well, using design thinking to determine how to live in your strengths, which is just like I said, super interesting stuff. And I guess I have a question for you too, since I mean, we were waiting for a few things. How do you try to remind yourself to live in these methodologies? I sometimes I get going so fast that I'm like, instead of just responding to people and setting boundaries. I mean, do you have any good first advice of like trying to remind yourself to think like this?
It takes some practice. Um, a lot, especially since now we're completely remote. So a lot of times we only have emails and maybe some video calls back and forth. So we do lose a little bit in body language.
Mhm.
So like we have to kind of take some things at face value based off of that. So it just comes with having to interpret differently, thinking about it.
Now, is this something that you guys at your company has like kind of implemented all together about, especially like the email signature with preferred methodology with communication, and asking how communication is preferred within projects and such?
We don't have it in our email signatures, but after talking about this, we all seem to think that that was a really good idea. I mean, the people that you work with frequently kind of know what the best way to reach them is. Like Tamara's very I am like always with the chat.
With coworkers,
With
like I
coworkers,
don't with
yes.
coworkers, I am me.
Yes.
But with new dealers we work with, when I start working with a new dealer or a new salesperson or a new design manager, I usually tell them like,
Hmm.
I really
Email.
don't pay attention to my phone. So it's
Yep.
actually fastest to reach me by emailing me because my phone is off to the side. I'm drawing, I'm
Yeah.
going, but then I'll go to
My
my
phone could be in
email
the other
before.
room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or yeah, like, we all work from home, but I might leave my phone in the kitchen and sit down at my computer for 3 hours and, um, if it's on vibrate because I do like my privacy. I have my notifications turned off after like 6 p.m.
Mhm.
because when I'm done working, I don't want to think about work anymore.
Yes, especially when you're at home already, got to set those
Absolutely.
boundaries and turn that time off and be in your personal well-being at that point as well. One of the comments you made, Carrie, resonated so much with me of the, if you leave me a voicemail, the chances of me listening it within the next 48 hours is slim to none.
Yes.
I feel 100% that way as well. I know it's definitely a generational thing.
Yes.
But there's something about voicemails and phone calls that is just like, sometimes you dread them and sometimes you're like, okay, I'll just take it.
Although I do love the voicemail to text message
Yes.
function so that somebody that leaves me a voicemail, it then turns into a text message. And I would much rather read that than
I 1 million
listen to a
percent agree with you
voicemail.
with that. Yeah, this was a great presentation, you two. So much good, just content that, it's just something that I think when you, especially when you're moving so fast, that you tend to forget about, but can really bring a project or a team or just a way of working to a whole new level. Really
Well, and
great.
I saw a lot of communication hurdles at my previous job just because everybody had worked together for so long. They all kind of had like their set ways of doing it, and there wasn't a catalyst like the coronavirus to like implement any change. And
Mhm.
then anytime there was anything that needed to be implemented, it was like you have to kind of stop and be like, wait, this is a really good time to like think about everything. Like, let's go back and think about it all.
Has anyone in the audience that's listening right now had any major changes with methodology of communication or company structures or processes due to the pandemic and being remote? Drop it in the chat. Just curious. Because I know some companies, I know for us, we rely heavily on Teams and calls. So that's kind of a big part in our SharePoint site. I'm just always curious of how others are doing it, um, especially the SharePoint site with what you guys had talked about, never saving on your desktop. But that is a big no-no here, because once it's there, that's the depths of no one's finding that.
I've been sent some drawings before, and it wasn't a pack and go, so it's just a drawing, and they're like, oh well, here's the base plan, and then you got to open it, and I was like, okay, well I got 6 different pop-ups about drawing references that are missing, so I
Express
need
missing.
this one and this one and this one, and oh look, all of these say they were saved on somebody's desktop, so
Yeah.
sorry, you're going to have to find those.
Yeah. And it's so good when you, especially like you just said, just I love the idea that you guys brought up too of having a blank file structure that you
Mhm.
can copy and paste over and over and over again. That just sets the expectation of this is how we will work. I mean, I wrote that down as something I was like, even in marketing, how we do packaging of materials or, things like that. It's just such a simple thing, but just so powerful to just make searching for things easier. Not having to put the work in to create it every time. Just so good.
Yeah, that's something that I was really surprised that like everybody didn't already do. Like it's so simple. It's like, wait, what? You create the folders every time? Yeah,
Yep.
there's a
And
better
it
way.
sounds good until you're, if you're one or two people or three people on a team,
Right,
but the minute you get more above that, people think differently on how they want to save things and they
right.
make up their own structure. And then I'm searching for something that's like, hey, how'd you save that?
Yeah,
Um,
if you have a big design team, I mean like 16 people, that's just oh, so much
that could be
time
utter
looking for
chaos.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So much time looking for things.
And it also makes it harder on you as a designer to be like, my plate is super full. I need somebody to like help me work on this. And then you're having to spend so much time explaining where everything is, what everything is, and it's not just clear.
Right.
I think
Here's the
that's,
comments, here's the revisions, blah, 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 blah.
I'm going to forward you 27 emails. It's like,
Oh,
no, they're
Lord.
all dropped in there. Like, just,
And I'm sure a very happy, positive result of this is that customers probably love working with you guys because you come off very well organized. The way that you communicate, I mean, that's got to be a very nice outcome of just putting some of these simple things in place.
Yeah, I got a really nice email from a customer yesterday, and he was like, he sent an email to our manager and said, "Where do you find these people? They're great. It's so easy to work with them."
And it's all because you put a system in place, which is so good, so
Absolutely.
good. And I may have said this, or I don't know if I said this earlier, but I did message. We have a group chat of our room buddies, all of our room buddies out here that are in all the breakout sessions. I said,